Welcome back. Lincoln currency. In the year 1980, the United States Mint continued a tradition that had been in place since 1909, producing the iconic Lincoln cent, a coin that might look small in the palm of your hand but carries with it layers of history, craftsmanship, economic significance, and cultural symbolism. It was a year of massive production. Billions of these coins were struck, and yet within these billions hide secrets that have fascinated collectors for decades. The 1981 cent coin, sometimes casually called a penny, is much more than a small copper-colored disc, because its composition, design, minting history, and rare varieties create a story that goes far beyond its face value. Most people remember the penny as a common coin tossed into jars, used to make exact change, or pressed in souvenir machines at tourist attractions. But the 1980 cent is special because it sits at a transition point in U.S. coinage, when copper prices were climbing, when the mint was on the verge of changing materials, and when certain varieties emerged that became prizes for collectors. In 1980, the coins were still made from the classic bronze composition that had been used for decades, 95% copper, with the remaining 5% a combination of tin and zinc. This gave the coin its distinctive rich reddish-brown color when new, and over time, exposure to air and handling would darken and tone the coin, giving it shades that range from chocolate brown to deep mahogany. The weight of these coins was 3.11 grams, and their diameter was 19.05 millimeters. The edge was smooth, plain, without any reading, which was consistent for all Lincoln cents. It was still the era when the Lincoln cent felt substantial in hand, before the switch in 1982 to copper-plated zinc, which brought the weight down to 2.5 grams. The design of the 1980 penny was the same as it had been since 1959 on the reverse and since 1909 on the obverse. The obverse featured the profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has endured for over a century. Above Lincoln's head appears the inscription "In God We Trust," to the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date 1980. Coins struck at Denver carry a small D mint mark beneath the date, coins from San Francisco in proof form carry an S mint mark, and coins from Philadelphia in 1980 have no mint mark at all. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, depicts the Lincoln Memorial in crisp detail, with the denomination 1 cent and the legend United States of America, along with the Latin motto E pluribus unum above the memorial. This design, replacing the earlier wheat ears reverse in 1959, had been in place for 2 decades by 1980, and millions of Americans were accustomed to seeing it in their everyday change. In that year, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 7.41 billion Lincoln cents, Denver struck about 5.14 billion, and San Francisco produced over 3.5 million proof coins. This makes the 1980 cent one of the most common dates for the series, at least in terms of total mintage. But sheer quantity doesn't mean all coins are the same. Among these billions are coins in pristine condition that have survived without the nicks and scratches of circulation, coins struck with slightly misaligned dies, coins with doubled dies that show doubling in the lettering or date, and coins with mint-made errors that can be quite valuable to specialists, while the vast majority of 1980 cents are worth only their face value in circulated condition. The story changes when you examine the coin market more closely. A well-preserved 1980 cent in uncirculated condition, showing full red luster with no spots or marks, can be worth several dollars or more. In the higher mint state grades like MS-65 or MS-67, certified examples can bring strong prices, sometimes in the range of $40, $100, or even higher for exceptional coins. Proof coins from San Francisco, struck with mirrored surfaces and frosted devices, are another category entirely, collected for their beauty and precision. These are often worth a few dollars in typical proof grades, but perfect examples graded PR70 Deep Cameo can reach into the hundreds. Then there are the varieties that make 1980 truly interesting for collectors. The 1980 D Double Die Obverse, catalogued as FS 101, is one such variety. On these coins, the date and liberty show clear doubling when viewed under magnification, the kind of mint error that draws attention at auctions. Even in lower mint state grades, these coins can be worth hundreds of dollars, and in high grade, they can reach the high hundreds or even over $1,000 in some cases. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, clips, and other striking errors from 1980 also command premiums depending on how dramatic they are. What makes the 1980 penny fascinating is the blend of the ordinary and the extraordinary. On one hand, it is one of the most common coins of its time, a coin that circulated widely and still turns up in pocket change today. On the other hand, within that common mass are coins that are rare because of condition, because of minting anomalies, or because of specific varieties. And layered on top of that is the historical context. 1980 was just before the mint made a major composition change, just before the Lincoln cent as Americans knew it for decades became something lighter, cheaper, and different. That makes the 1980 copper cents among the last of their kind, a detail that appeals to both casual collectors and serious numismatists. As the story of the 1981 cent coin moves deeper into the realm of collector fascination, one topic inevitably surfaces: the rumors and sensational claims that certain examples have sold or are valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, figures like $651 million or more. These claims often travel quickly online, on social media videos, or in clickbait articles, luring viewers with the possibility that a coin sitting in their change jar could be life-changing wealth. While it is true that rare coins have sold for incredible amounts, it is critical to separate fact from myth when we talk about the 1980 penny. The genuine auction records for this date, even in the rarest varieties, fall far short of hundreds of millions. In reality, the most valuable 1980 pennies tend to be either extraordinary mint errors or coins in superb gem condition with a recognized double die or variety designation. These may sell for hundreds or a few $1,000s depending on the case, but nothing remotely approaching the astronomical figures sometimes quoted. The origins of the $651 million number tied to the 1980 penny are vague at best, likely a combination of exaggerated online claims, misunderstandings of market rarity, and sometimes outright fabricated videos meant to attract attention. In numismatic reality, the market for Lincoln cents, even rare dates like 1909 SVDB, 1914 D, or 1955 double die, has never seen values remotely close to hundreds of millions for a single coin. The highest auction records for any coin in American history belong to extraordinary rarities like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, and even those record-setting sales hover in the range of $10 to $20 million, not hundreds of millions. That perspective puts into focus the actual scope of the market for a high-grade 1980 cent. But myths aside, the 1980 penny still carries true numismatic value that is meaningful to collectors. Coins struck at the Denver Mint in 1980 are especially worth examining for the FS 101 double die obverse. In this variety, the doubling is visible on the date and lettering, creating a striking effect. Because minting technology had improved over earlier decades, such strong double dies became less common, which adds to the appeal of examples that do exist. Collectors prize them, and certified specimens in mint state grades often fetch several $100s, with exceptional coins reaching into the higher ranges. Similarly, San Francisco proof coins from 1980 are sometimes found with deep cameo contrast, where the frosted devices stand out sharply against the mirrored fields. Perfect PR70 deep cameo examples, graded by PCGS or NGC, may command premiums from serious collectors of proof Lincoln cents. Another category of value lies in mint-made errors. The 1980 penny can be found in various error types including off-center strikes, which occur when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the press, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing. The more off-center the strike while still showing the date and important details, the more valuable the coin tends to be. Broad strikes, double strikes, and die caps from 1980 also exist and can bring premiums. Coins with retained cut breaks, die cracks that create raised lines across the surface, and other die state anomalies are collected by specialists and can be worth tens to hundreds of dollars depending on severity and visibility. Even among normal coins without errors or varieties, the condition makes a dramatic difference in value. A 1980 cent fresh from the mint, with full original red copper luster and no signs of wear, can grade MS65, MS66, or higher, and such coins are always in demand for registry sets. While an MS-65 coin might sell for $40 or so, an MS-67 coin can sell for hundreds depending on the market. MS-68 examples, which are extremely rare for this date, can push into four figures if they appear at auction. These are coins that have survived 4 decades without picking up the tiny contact marks and discolorations that almost always happen to coins in circulation. In the market today, collectors who focus on Lincoln Memorial cents from 1959 to 2008 see 1980 as a relatively common date but still one with opportunities for variety hunting and high-grade acquisition. Most circulated coins have little premium, but a sharp-eyed collector looking at rolls of 1980 cents can sometimes spot a double die or dramatic error. This makes coin roll hunting for this date still an engaging hobby activity, because the possibility of finding a coin worth significantly more than face value is there. As we consider the broader history, the 1980 penny becomes more interesting in context. It was one of the last years of the heavy copper cents before the transition to copper-plated zinc in 1982. By 1980, inflation had eroded the buying power of the penny, and the rising price of copper was making each coin's metal content worth close to or more than its face value. This economic pressure is what drove the composition change just 2 years later. Thus, the 1980 copper penny can be seen as part of the closing chapter of an era in U.S. coinage, and that adds historical significance even if it doesn't necessarily translate to massive monetary value. The Philadelphia Mint's output in 1980 forms a massive portion of the total mintage, producing over 7 billion cents that year, and among them are coins that range from dull, well-worn copper pieces to bright uncirculated examples that were set aside by collectors at the time. Philadelphia cents of 1980 are notable because they carry no mint mark, a tradition that dates back decades, and for many casual observers this absence often raises curiosity. To a new collector holding a 1980 penny with no mint mark, there can be a question of whether this is an error or a rare issue, but in reality, all 1980 Philadelphia business strike cents lack a mint mark by design. What becomes interesting is that because the sheer volume of coins struck at Philadelphia was so high, small variations and die anomalies become inevitable. Double dies are less prominent for the Philadelphia coins compared to the Denver issues, but repunched mint marks are obviously not present because there is no mint mark to be repunched. Still, there are subtle machine doubling examples and minor die breaks that specialists enjoy cataloging. Denver in 1980 struck over 5 billion cents, each bearing the small d mint mark below the date. This mint was well known for high-speed production, and with high-speed production comes increased potential for varieties and striking anomalies. Among Denver cents for 1980, the most famous is the FS 101 double die obverse, where clear doubling can be seen on the numerals of the date and on the word Liberty. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often chase this variety, and its value in high grades reflects the demand. While an average uncirculated example might sell for a few $100s, a superb gem with brilliant red luster can command even more, particularly if certified by a top grading service. This variety is not as dramatic as the legendary 1955 double die, but within the series of late 20th century double dies, it is an important and desirable coin. San Francisco in 1980 produced only proof cents for inclusion in proof sets, with a total mintage of a little over 3 million. Each proof cent was struck on specially prepared planchets using polished dies to create coins with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. These coins were never intended for circulation, though some proof cents do occasionally escape their sets and appear in pocket change, often after sets have been broken apart. The San Francisco cents carry the S mint mark, which in 1980 is well-formed and distinct. Proof coins from this year are known for their deep cameo contrast, though like all proof issues they are prone to spotting if not carefully stored. Collectors seeking the finest examples aim for PR69 and PR70 deep cameo grades, with perfect PR70 coins commanding strong premiums due to their rarity in flawless condition. One of the reasons that rumors about astronomical values for coins like the 1980 penny take hold is because of a misunderstanding of numismatic rarity. While 1980 pennies are common in raw, circulated form, truly exceptional examples are rare. This rarity is not about the date itself but about the condition and special characteristics. For example, While a typical 1980 cent in circulated condition is worth 1 cent, a 1980 D double die obverse in MS67 red could easily be worth hundreds or more. A perfect PR70 deep cameo 1980 S proof could sell for several $100s because of the difficulty of finding a flawless coin after decades. These real premiums are significant but grounded in the actual coin market, unlike the fantasy valuations that circulate online. Another fascinating detail is the composition of the 1980 penny. At 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, each coin in 1980 contained about 0.093 ounces of copper. With copper prices fluctuating, at certain points the melt value of these cents exceeded 1 cent, leading to increased interest in hoarding copper pennies. U.S. law prohibits melting down cents for their metal value, but the fact that the intrinsic value of the metal approached or exceeded the face value in the early 2000s led to renewed awareness of copper cents in general. The 1980 penny, being one of the later heavy copper issues, became part of the conversation about which dates to save in bulk. Collectors and metal enthusiasts often seek out pre-1982 copper cents to separate from their change, and 1980 is a prime candidate year. In terms of auction results, while there are no $651 million sales, there are solid examples that show the strength of the market for quality coins. High-grade certified business strikes have sold in the range of $100 to $500 depending on grade and eye appeal. Double die obverse varieties in gem condition have exceeded $1,000 in some cases. Proof coins in PR70 deep cameo have sold for over $400 at auction when demand is high. These numbers are realistic reflections of what serious collectors are willing to pay for top-tier coins. Beyond condition and variety, there is the artistry of the coin itself. Victor David Brenner's obverse design of Lincoln, based on photographs and life masks of the president, has endured longer than any other U.S. coin portrait. Frank Gasparo's reverse of the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959, remained until 2008, making the 1980 penny part of one of the most familiar designs in American coinage history. The details of the memorial on well-struck examples are crisp enough that a tiny seated Lincoln statue is visible inside the memorial, a detail that many people never notice until it is pointed out. For collectors who appreciate design elements, examining a 1980 cent under magnification can reveal fine lines, column details, and the subtle sculpting of Lincoln's profile. When examining the 1981 cent coin in the context of grading, it becomes clear that condition is everything in determining value, and grading itself is an intricate process that collectors and dealers take very seriously. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale developed by Dr. William Sheldon, where 1 represents a barely identifiable coin and 70 represents a flawless specimen. For a 1980 penny, most coins found in circulation fall between grades of good, G, to extremely fine, XF, showing heavy wear, flattened details, and often surface discoloration. These coins, while interesting from a historical perspective, hold no numismatic premium beyond their metal value. It is in the uncirculated grades that real value begins to emerge. An MS60 coin will have full detail but may display significant marks or spots from handling. As the grade climbs to MS65, the coin shows brilliant luster, sharp detail, and very minimal contact marks. MS66 coins are more elusive, with near-perfect surfaces. MS67 coins are rare for 1980 cents, requiring exceptional preservation and a perfect strike, and these coins are the ones that can fetch hundreds of dollars in the open market. The process of roll searching, or coin roll hunting, remains one of the most exciting grassroots activities in the coin collecting hobby, especially for common dates like 1980. Collectors acquire bank rolls or boxes of pennies, each containing hundreds or thousands of coins, and search them meticulously for high-grade examples, varieties, or errors. Among billions of 1980 cents produced, the challenge is finding coins that escape the wear of circulation and still retain their original mint red luster. Occasionally, a roll hunter will come across a sharp MS66 or MS67 coin, or a double die variety, or a dramatic mint error, turning an ordinary roll search into a profitable find. Many collectors have stories of locating valuable coins this way, adding to the mystique of coins like the 1980 penny. the psychology of collectors also plays a role in how coins like the 1980 cent are valued. For many hobbyists, the sentimental connection to coins from their childhood years is strong. Someone who was a child in 1980 or began collecting around that time may have a special fondness for that year's coins. Nostalgia drives interest, and when combined with the knowledge that 1980 was one of the final full years of the 95% copper cents, it gives the coin an added emotional and historical dimension. Collectors who build date and mint mark sets of Lincoln cents often ensure they have pristine examples of the 1980 P, D, and S issues. The economics of copper hoarding also intersects with the 1980 penny. Because each coin contains about 3.11 grams of metal, with 95% of that being copper, large quantities of pre-1982 cents have been saved in buckets, bags, and boxes by individuals hoping to benefit if laws change and copper cents can legally be melted. While the melt value fluctuates with the price of copper, the intrinsic value has at times approached or exceeded 2 cents per coin. This has led to the 1980 penny being viewed as not just a collectible but also a tiny piece of stored metal value, a commodity that some people accumulate by the thousands. Although melting is illegal, holding on to copper cents as a hedge is a practice many quietly engage in. From an aesthetic perspective, the 1980 penny can be captivating when found in brilliant condition. Freshly minted coins had a warm, rich red glow, and under magnification the details of the Lincoln Memorial stand out in remarkable clarity. On proof examples, the mirrored fields and frosted devices create a striking visual contrast that almost feels like a miniature piece of art. Over time, exposure to air can cause toning, with colors shifting through shades of gold, orange, magenta, and even violet. While some toning is considered unattractive, rainbow toning in appealing patterns can increase a coin's desirability to certain collectors, especially if it is natural and evenly distributed. The auction scene for 1980 pennies, while not producing sensational multi-million-dollar sales, has shown steady and consistent demand for quality pieces. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have sold 1980 cents in top grades for prices that demonstrate serious collector interest. A 1980 DMS67 Red, for example, may sell for several $100s, while a 1980 S-proof in PR70 Deep Cameo might cross the $400 mark. Error coins can spike even higher depending on the drama of the error. A 1980 penny struck off center by 50% with a full date visible could easily reach $150 to $300. Double-struck coins, especially those showing both strikes clearly, are in similar demand. The key to understanding the 1980 penny's place in the collector world is balance. Billions exist, so most are common, but within that ocean of coins are islands of rarity formed by condition, error, or variety. The skill lies in knowing what to look for and recognizing the difference between an ordinary worn penny and a true numismatic treasure. In 1980, the 1-cent coin entered circulation at a moment when the American economy was dealing with strong inflationary pressures, high interest rates, and increasing commodity prices that had a direct impact on coin production. Copper was becoming more expensive, and yet the mint continued to strike cents in their traditional alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, each weighing 3.11 grams. This year was one of the last years in which copper cents were produced in full before the composition changed to copper-plated zinc in mid-1982. The 1980 coin therefore carries with it the historical significance of being part of the end of an era in U.S. coinage. Collectors who focus on metal composition see 1980 as a key part of the pre-zinc period, and even though billions were made, the fact that the melt value of the copper sometimes approaches or exceeds the face value has led to these coins being saved in large numbers by those who separate copper from their change. The obverse of the coin continues Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which had by 1980 already been in use for 71 years. This design was revolutionary in 1909 because it was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than symbolic figures, and Lincoln's profile had become an enduring part of American pocket change. The reverse carried Frank Gasparo's depiction of the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse includes an intricate detail that many people overlook: the tiny figure of Lincoln seated within the memorial, which can be seen under magnification. In 1980 this design was familiar to every American, as the Lincoln Memorial Cent had been the standard for more than 2 decades. The mintage numbers in 1980 were massive. Philadelphia struck over 7 billion coins without a mint mark, Denver produced more than 5 billion with the D mint mark, and San Francisco struck just over 3 million proof coins with the S mint mark for inclusion in proof sets. These huge mintages make the coin common in general, but condition rarity and special varieties give certain coins premium value. Philadelphia coins are generally sought in high mint state grades where they are difficult to find free of spots, toning, or contact marks. Denver coins are famous for the FS 101 double die obverse variety, which shows doubling on the date and liberty. San Francisco proofs are collected for their deep cameo contrast, with PR 70 examples being the most valuable due to their perfection. The cultural backdrop of 1980 also adds an interesting layer to the story. This was the final year of Jimmy Carter's presidency, a year marked by political tension, high inflation, and a coming presidential election that would bring Ronald Reagan into the White House. Pop culture flourished with music, television, and film, and pennies like the 1980 cent circulated widely in daily life. These coins might have been in the cash registers of record stores selling vinyl albums, in the pockets of moviegoers lining up to see The Empire Strikes Back, or in the tip jars of diners across the country. Every coin from 1980 carries with it the possibility of a unique personal history, moving from hand to hand through the economy of the time. Modern myths surrounding the 1980 penny's value, such as the claim of a $651 million example, are fueled largely by sensationalized internet videos and articles. While no coin from this date has or will realistically achieve that price, these exaggerated claims capture the imagination and spark interest in coin collecting. The truth is that while common circulated examples are worth face value, uncirculated gems, double dies, and perfect proofs can command strong premiums within the collector market. The largest auction prices for 1980 pennies are in the hundreds or low thousands of dollars for exceptional pieces, but these are still significant returns compared to face value and demonstrate the strength of collector demand for the finest coins. As we move deeper into the story of the 1981 cent coin, the market history becomes one of the most fascinating aspects because it shows how a coin minted in the billions can still command strong prices in the right circumstances. The majority of 1980 pennies have no additional value over face because they circulated heavily, losing their original mint luster and picking up countless marks. However, the high-grade survivors that never entered circulation tell an entirely different story. Auction records show that coins in MS-67 red from both Philadelphia and Denver are extremely elusive and command strong premiums. A 1980 Philadelphia cent graded MS-67 red by PCGS has brought prices in the range of $300 to $500 in major auctions. These prices are supported by registry set collectors who compete to assemble the highest graded complete sets of Lincoln cents, pushing values upward whenever a top-grade coin appears. The Denver issue is similar, with MS-67 red examples also selling in the $300 to $400 range, but the real prize from Denver is the famous double die obverse variety FS 101. On this variety, the doubling is clear on the date and liberty, making it easy to identify even without magnification for those with a trained eye. These coins in high mint state grades can command thousands of dollars, with MS-65 red examples bringing $2,000 to $3,000 and higher in some sales. In circulated grades the variety is still collectible, often selling for hundreds of dollars. The FS 101 is a reminder that even in a high-mintage modern issue, a rare variety can transform an ordinary coin into a prize worth seeking. The San Francisco proofs of 1980 also play an important role in the market. These coins were struck with specially prepared dies on polished planchets to create mirror-like surfaces and frosted designs. Collectors value them based on their grade and the depth of cameo contrast. Most proof coins from this year grade PR 69 deep cameo, selling for modest amounts, but perfect PR 70 deep cameo examples are rare and highly sought after. In auctions, PR 70 deep cameo 1980 cents have sold for $400 to $500, and sometimes more, depending on demand at the time. Proof coins are also collected in original government packaging as part of complete 1980 proof sets, which remain popular with both collectors and those nostalgic for the era. Beyond the standard business strikes and proofs, the world of mint errors adds yet another dimension to the 1980 pennies story. Errors are pieces struck outside the mint's usual quality control standards, and they can range from subtle misalignments to dramatic off-center strikes or multiple strikes. Some of the most desirable 1980 errors include off-center strikes where a significant portion of the design is missing, but the date remains visible. These can sell for $100 to $300 depending on the degree of the error and overall eye appeal. Double strikes, where a coin is struck twice in different positions, can bring similar amounts. Other errors include clipped planchets, broad strikes, and coins struck on foreign or incorrect planchets, each commanding a premium from collectors of error coins. Over the decades since 1980, the overall market for these coins has followed the broader trends in numismatics. In the early 1980s, few people saved rolls of 1980 pennies because they were so common. By the 1990s, as coin grading became more standardized and third-party certification gained popularity, collectors began seeking high-grade examples. In the 2000s and 2010s, registry set competition drove top-grade prices higher, and today the value of a 1980 penny depends almost entirely on condition, variety, and whether it has been certified by a top grading service. The persistence of the $651 million claim, while unrealistic, shows how speculation and sensationalism influence the hobby. Even though no coin could possibly reach such a number, the publicity creates a wave of interest that sometimes leads to genuine discoveries of valuable coins, though on a much smaller scale. People searching their change for a mythical fortune sometimes end up finding double dies, rare mint errors, or even earlier copper cents worth several $100s. The cultural legacy of the 1981 cent coin is something that goes beyond its face value and market fluctuations, because the coin itself is tied to a moment in American life that was very distinct. By 1980, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 70 years, making it a constant companion to Americans through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, social change, and economic highs and lows. In 1980 it was still an everyday object, casually handled by millions of people who often didn't stop to notice its artistry, composition, or connection to history. Yet for collectors, the 1980 penny represents a final chapter of a nearly unbroken tradition of copper cents before the transition to copper-plated zinc just 2 years later. This gives it an almost symbolic position in the timeline of the Lincoln cent series. When viewed in a complete set of Lincoln cents, the 1980 coin sits at an interesting crossroads. On one side of it are the earlier copper coins stretching back through the 1970s, 1960s, and further to the 1909 introduction of the design. On the other side are the modern zinc issues, lighter in weight and different in feel. Collectors who assemble full date and mint mark sets often see the 1980 issues as part of the last strong run of traditional composition, a set of years that are easy to acquire but still meaningful for their link to the classic era. For this reason, 1980 cents often appear in albums not because of their scarcity but because of their place in the broader historical sequence. The fascination with the 1980 penny also comes from the simple joy of searching. Coin roll hunters, metal detectorists, and casual collectors alike enjoy the possibility of finding a gem in unexpected places. A worn brown 1980 cent might pass unnoticed in pocket change, but a bright red, sharply struck example could catch the eye of someone who knows what to look for. The double die from Denver or a dramatic error coin could appear at any time, tucked away in an old jar of coins saved for decades. These possibilities fuel the continued attention to a date that, on the surface, seems common but still holds potential surprises. In numismatic conversations, the 1980 cent is also sometimes used as an example to teach new collectors about how market myths can form. The idea of a $651 million penny, while clearly exaggerated, serves as an engaging entry point to discuss how rarity, demand, and historical context actually create value. In a sense, the 1980 cent becomes a teaching tool. It invites people to ask why certain coins are worth thousands or millions, while others, even old ones, are not. This discussion often leads to deeper appreciation of grading, mint errors, and the economics of coin collecting. Over the decades, the 1980 penny's legacy has remained steady. It is not a coin that suddenly vanished from circulation, nor is it one whose value skyrocketed overnight. Instead, it is a coin that quietly endures, with billions still existing, yet only a small fraction in the pristine grades that collectors covet. It is a reminder that numismatics is a long game, one built on patience, knowledge, and sometimes just the luck of coming across the right coin in the right place. The 1981 cent coin exists in a fascinating economic context that directly influenced how it is viewed today, because by that year the conversation around copper and production costs was intensifying inside the U.S. Mint. The price of copper on global markets was climbing rapidly through the late 1970s, and in certain years the metal content of a single cent was approaching or even exceeding its 1 cent face value. This posed a problem for the Treasury, because it meant the government was essentially losing money on every penny produced. In 1980 the coin still weighed 3.11 grams and was made from the familiar alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, but the mint knew a change would be necessary if copper prices did not stabilize. The decision to change the composition was not made lightly, because the Lincoln cent was a well-known, iconic coin, and any change risked public scrutiny. However, the economics were undeniable. The mint began testing copper-plated zinc planchets that were much cheaper to produce and weighed only 2.5 grams, and by 1982 the transition took place. This makes the 1980 issue part of the last stretch of full copper cents, a fact that continues to draw interest from those who collect coins based on composition. Many collectors today will separate pre-1982 cents from their change and store them in bulk as a form of copper hoarding, and 1980 coins are included in these holdings both for their metal value and their nostalgic place in the timeline. The economic environment of 1980 was also a time when the United States was struggling with inflation, high interest rates, and economic uncertainty. These pressures were part of everyday life, and coins like the 1980 cent moved constantly through an economy where every cent counted. It was common for children to save coins, for adults to keep jars of loose change, and for small transactions to still involve pennies. A 1980 penny could have been used to pay for bus fare, buy candy, or make up the change for a morning newspaper. The coin was both a tool of commerce and a small symbol of the nation's endurance through economic challenges. The connection between this economic moment and collector interest is subtle but important. Many people who grew up in this era remember the feel and sound of copper cents, and when they handle a 1980 penny today, it brings back memories of a different time in the American economy. This nostalgia adds a layer of intangible value to the coin, even if its market price remains modest. Numismatics often thrives on these emotional connections, and the 1980 cent is no exception. In the broader Lincoln cent series, the 1980 coin sits as a reminder of how external economic forces can shape coinage. The change to zinc in 1982 fundamentally altered the way pennies feel, wear, and age. Copper cents like the 1980 issue develop a rich patina over time, while zinc cents tend to corrode or form bubbles under the copper plating. This difference in long-term durability is another reason collectors value the pre-1982 issues more, even in common dates, because they are seen as coins that will outlast their modern counterparts. The physical properties and minting process of the 1981 cent coin are crucial to understanding why certain examples stand out and command value in today's collector market. In 1980 the planchets were still the traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, carefully prepared before being fed into presses for striking. Each blank weighed 3.11 grams and had a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, the same as earlier Lincoln cents. The obverse featured Victor David Brenner's profile of Abraham Lincoln, still crisp and sharp on fresh dies, but prone to losing detail as the dies wore down. The reverse displayed Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, with its straight lines and intricate columns that could reveal even minor striking weaknesses. The minting process at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco involved massive production runs to meet demand. Philadelphia alone struck billions of coins, many on high-speed presses that could produce slight variations in strike strength, planchet quality, and die wear. This is why coins from 1980 range in appearance from weakly struck, dull brown pieces to blazing red gems with sharp detail. Collectors prize the latter, especially when they are certified as full red, RD, by grading services. The difference in market value between a brown circulated 1980 penny and a red MS-67 example can be hundreds of dollars, even though they are the same coin by date and mint mark. Die varieties from 1980 add another layer of interest. The most famous is the 1980 D double die obverse FS 101, but there are also minor repunched mint marks, RPMs, and small die cracks that appeal to variety specialists. These varieties arise from the manual or mechanical preparation of dies, and although they are often subtle, they represent a unique fingerprint of the minting process. Collectors who specialize in die varieties will search boxes of coins or dealer stock for these anomalies, and when discovered in high grade, they can command strong premiums. Proof coins from San Francisco were struck multiple times on polished planchets to bring out every design detail. The process involved carefully prepared dies that created a mirror-like background and frosted devices. These proofs are evaluated based on the strength of their cameo contrast and their absence of marks. A perfect PR70 deep cameo example is the pinnacle of quality, and although they are rare, the 1980s proof cents in top grade continue to attract competitive bidding from registry collectors. The combination of mass production, varying strike quality, and die preparation methods means that the 1980 penny is a perfect example of how even a common date can produce coins of exceptional interest. The physical makeup of copper gives these coins a distinct feel and color that collectors recognize instantly when compared to the later zinc issues. Over time, copper cents tend to develop attractive toning, ranging from deep reds and golds to blues and purples, if stored in the right conditions. These naturally toned coins can be especially desirable, and examples from 1980 with vibrant, original color sometimes bring higher prices than even brilliant red pieces. The long-term market trajectory of the 1981 cent coin is a study in how common date coins can hold a steady place in the hobby over decades without dramatic spikes but still retain a strong and persistent collector base. When the coins were first released in 1980, there was virtually no premium attached to them beyond face value except for proof sets. Circulated coins were too common and the idea of roll-saving modern cents had not yet taken strong hold. Through the 1980s and 1990s, most circulated examples wore down through daily commerce while a smaller number of fresh rolls and mint-sealed bags remained in the hands of dealers and collectors who purchased them directly from the banks or the mint. By the mid-1990s, as third-party grading services gained momentum, collectors began to realize just how few 1980 cents existed in pristine condition. MS-67 and higher became the grade levels to watch, and registry-set competition in the 2000s drove prices upward. Auction records from this period show a consistent pattern. Common MS-65 and MS-66 coins brought modest prices, while MS-67 examples saw steady increases in value. This pattern continues today, with top-grade coins selling in the $300 to $500 range and occasionally higher when demand peaks. Error coins from 1980 have followed a similar but more dramatic curve. Off-center strikes, double dies, and dramatic die breaks were once pulled from circulation by sharp-eyed collectors but often sold for small sums. In today's market, those same coins, if certified and in high grade, can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The Denver FS 101 double die obverse remains the marquee variety, with sales in the thousands for high-end examples. Proof coins from San Francisco have had a slightly different trajectory. In the early years after their release, complete proof sets were often traded as a single product rather than as individual coins. Over time, the highest grade examples from each year were sent to grading services, and by the 2010s the 1980 SPR70 Deep Cameo became one of the key coins for those competing in modern proof Lincoln Cent registries. While prices for PR69 examples remain accessible, the perfect PR70 coins continue to bring strong premiums, sometimes $400 to $500, reflecting both their rarity and collector demand. Looking at the broader outlook, the 1980 penny is unlikely to see sudden, explosive price growth in ordinary circulated grade simply because billions still exist. However, as the years pass, high-grade coins will become even scarcer due to attrition, damage, and general loss. The supply of original bank-wrapped rolls has diminished significantly, and as collectors continue to upgrade their sets, competition for top-tier examples will remain strong. This means the premium for MS-67 coins could rise over the next decades, particularly as registry set collecting remains a powerful force in the hobby. What will always anchor the 1980 penny in collector consciousness is its position as one of the last full copper issues before the shift to zinc. This fact ensures it will always be sought after by those who collect by composition as well as by date and mint mark. Even if prices for common examples remain stable, the coin's historical significance guarantees that it will retain a secure place in collections and in discussions of late 20th century U.S. coinage. The 1981 cent coin holds a special place not only for its role as a late copper issue but also for how it mirrors other transitional points in U.S. coin history. Collectors often look at these moments as milestones that mark the end of one era and the beginning of another. The change from the heavy copper cent to the lighter zinc version in 1982 is one of the most recent transitions in small denomination coinage, but when we look back, there are clear parallels to other periods when the mint altered composition or design for economic or practical reasons. Consider the change in 1943, when the Lincoln cent was struck in steel coated with zinc to conserve copper for the war effort. That single-year issue stands out in the entire series as a unique departure, and it exists because of a dramatic shift in the nation's circumstances. Similarly, the 1980 cent is only 2 years away from the 1982 transition, but unlike the steel cents, its change was subtle to the general public, yet monumental for numismatics. The casual coin user may not have noticed a difference in weight or sound in 1982, but collectors did, and they recognized the end of an era of cents that had been essentially unchanged in composition since 1909. There is also a parallel to 1965 to 1967 when the mint removed silver from dimes and quarters, shifting to clad coinage to reduce costs. The same logic was at work in 1982 with the penny. In both cases, the intrinsic value of the metal threatened to exceed or match the face value of the coin. These changes were economic necessities, yet they became moments that collectors study intensely. The 1980 cent, like the 1964 dime or quarter, is a representative of the last full composition before the new standard was adopted. For collectors who study these transitions, coins like the 1980 penny take on more than just their face value or their modest market premium. They are markers of economic history and of the evolution of coinage in the United States. They serve as reference points to understand how the mint adapts to changing raw material costs, public perception, and production challenges. In this sense, the 1980 cent isn't just a common copper coin, it is part of a larger story about how America's coinage responds to the pressures of the times. This historical parallel also influences collecting behavior. Just as collectors set aside rolls of 1,964 silver coins in anticipation of scarcity, many collectors now set aside pre-1982 copper cents. While the sheer mintage of 1980 pennies ensures that they will never be rare in the traditional sense, the mindset of preserving them as part of the last copper years persists, and that keeps demand steady. The 1981 cent coin has taken on a new kind of life in the era of modern pop culture and internet virality, where stories of rare coins being worth astronomical sums capture the attention of millions. The $651 million claim attached to the 1980 penny is a perfect example of how a relatively common coin can suddenly become the center of online fascination, even when the actual facts are far more modest. These stories often circulate in social media posts, YouTube videos, and clickbait articles, framing the coin as an overlooked treasure that might be hiding in someone's pocket change. While the claim itself is clearly exaggerated, there has never been a verified 1980 penny sold for hundreds of millions. The effect on public interest is undeniable. People who may have never thought twice about the pennies in their possession suddenly start checking dates, looking for mint marks, and searching for visible errors. This creates a wave of renewed curiosity that inevitably leads some to discover genuine numismatics. In that sense, even the wildest viral story serves as a kind of entryway into the coin collecting hobby. YouTube creators in particular have leaned into this trend, producing videos that highlight both the myths and the realities of coin values. The 1980 penny is featured in countless uploads, some explaining the real market range of top-grade or error coins, others spinning more dramatic tales. While these videos often simplify or exaggerate, they keep the 1980 cent firmly in the public consciousness. Over time, this constant exposure helps maintain interest in a coin that might otherwise have faded quietly into the background of everyday circulation. The appeal is partly psychological. The idea that a humble copper penny from 1980, something so ordinary, could be worth a fortune taps into a deep fascination with hidden value. It mirrors stories of antiques found in attics, rare baseball cards discovered in old shoeboxes, or paintings bought at flea markets that turn out to be masterpieces. The 1980 penny, being both common and potentially special in certain forms, fits neatly into this cultural narrative of overlooked treasures. Collectors benefit indirectly from this attention. The surge in people searching through coins leads to more discoveries of high-grade examples, which in turn get submitted for certification. It also increases the visibility of genuine varieties like the 1980 D double die or dramatic off-center strikes. While many new searchers will not find a life-changing coin, some will, and this reinforces the idea that rare pieces do exist and can command serious money, just not in the sensationalized millions. The internet age has also made the market more transparent. Auction results, population reports, and price guides are now widely accessible, allowing both new and seasoned collectors to see real sales data. This transparency helps temper the exaggerated claims while still sustaining the thrill of the hunt. In a way, the $651 million story may never fully go away because it functions as a hook that keeps the 1980 penny relevant, even to people who don't consider themselves coin collectors.